Good morning, everybody. My name is Melody Morgan, and I have with me Jeana Williams and Barbara Hunter Cox from Arkansas Public School Resource Center. We want to welcome every one of you this morning on this stormy morning that we're having, and we appreciate you being able to join us. I do want to let you know that we are going to be recording this. Jeana is going to be moderating the chat box, so at any point in time, if you have a question, we don't have a really strict format. You can interrupt in the chat box and we'll stop at that point in our presentation and do our best to make sure we clarify anything that we have. I've already got, oh, great. So Trent's linked the presentation out in there, and that's good because there's going to be some really good links that I share with you in this presentation. So today we're going into, really this is part two. This builds on the 2 week ago statewide webinar that we did on digital learning solutions, where we rolled out some options that schools may be interested in for this fall, also some options for this summer. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into some of that information today. Our three big topics for discussion today are digital learning options, digital gap curriculum, and summer virtual academy. So I'm going to try to not feed you from a fire hose, so to speak. We're going to kind of share this information out and get as much detail as we can on these first two pieces, and then give you some big overarching pieces on the virtual academy piece that we're doing, and then the next steps for us if you have interest in that. So one of the things I want to emphasize that we talked about 2 weeks ago, and we had a really well-attended statewide Zoom, and we recorded it, and we also pushed it out to everybody that we invited, knowing that you might not be able to join at that time. It is also available on our website under the resources for digital learning. You can find it as the most recent recorded webinar placed out there. The digital learning options that I'm going to talk about are options that are available at no cost to districts, as well as some new options that have come around just in time for this summer or this fall. There are options that we were able to leverage some scale on as discounted cost. And then the digital gap curriculum is specifically something that we've designed. It's a digital gap curriculum that focuses on essential learning standards, and a summer virtual academy option that will allow districts to think about how to address unfinished student learning, and really on the other side of that, how to grow capacity in teachers and instructional support leaders. So let's just recap very briefly what we talked about 2 weeks ago about the available resources. These are available resources that are available to any district in the state. So it's not exclusive to any one district. These are resources, I'm moving my bar around here. These are resources that are available to you through the state grant that we received, the Arkansas Ready for Digital Learning grant. So you're very familiar with the options A and B, I believe. This was the content that was secured with the grant, as well as the learning management system. It's over 150 courses and content. That's just the content. Think of it as a digital textbook. Jeana's always really good to emphasize. You're getting like a digital course and a textbook. You're also getting a platform and a system to be able to utilize that if you're new to this with us at this point. Asynchronous means there's not a teacher in there. It still requires a district teacher or the district staff to intervene and make those resources function correctly for students. It allows for all kinds of customizations if you're not familiar with that. Anybody that did customizations in their courses this year, we are going to make sure they are preserved and rolled over into next year so they don't have to start with a clean course again. One of the big features in these options is access to a digital library, where that will allow you, we learned a new term, Jeana and I, the elasticity, or the ability to be flexible and bend. And you may have a need to go pull content from a prior grade level this fall when you get in there to actually meet the needs of some of your students. And so that'll allow you to browse that library regardless of how the course is actually created and rostered. And then we also provide auto enrollment rostering services. And we're going to have a little bit of customization even on that going forward next year, because sometimes not everybody wants all the child schedule to be rostered. So Kendall and I are going to be able to roll out some options on that meet your needs a little bit more. But those are going to continue to be options for you at no cost to districts. I'm not going to do the full presentation again, but I do want to tell you the difference in A and B. B is something brand new that Lincoln's designed. They have auto-graded courses. And if you want to learn more about that, you will definitely want to go back and look at the webinar from, oh, Jeana, what was the day? The 15th.
14th. I think it was the 14th.
Actually, you'll want to go back and look at that, because we really explored the auto-graded features that allow for really more formative interaction for students and feedback more regularly. And also how she's going to wrap around some really amazing professional learning options with that as well. So this is a part that I've made some adjustments to since the last time you saw this. And so I'm not trying to give you a repeat, but I want to let you know a little bit more about option C, because we're getting a lot of calls and a lot of demand for this because of what it looks like as we're coming out of a pandemic school year, and how we may need to have options to meet virtual options even for one child or maybe for a group of children. So a lot of schools have come up with some really neat ways to utilize option C. The content, again, is covered through the grant, but there's a ability for us to leverage some costs for you here and actually allow a district to enter into an agreement with us for a teacher. And we call that a teacher services piece. Content is still provided. Like I said, that's coming through the grant again this year. So there's no cost for the course, but the cost for the teacher is very much scaled back as to what it would cost you to actually employ a teacher. So if you're in a situation, I'm going to give you an example that one school district had that I thought was really good. They're going to offer virtual for students that choose to have a pure virtual pathway. They may have teachers on staff in that virtual academy that offer core content and deliver it for the virtual students, but they're choosing to add the service, the teacher service piece for art and music. So they're going to contract and actually secure the teacher piece so that part of that child's educational, those children's educational plan are delivered at a cost that maybe doesn't tie up all of their local staff. So they're finding ways, you might call it, to augment educational outcomes and plans for students using a lot of different resources that are available. So we have created a form here. I'm gonna take you to the form.
And Mel, we've got some, we might want to clarify something here in just a minute.
Okay. So this is not a Google form. This is simply a form that you will download and use at your own local discretion to complete. There are about 3 tabs on it that I put in here with the help of Pam. The first one is just the general information piece. We'll open it where you can see it better. Jeana, go ahead and ask the question. It might feed into what I'm saying.
So Ms. Aguilera was wondering where she can get access to these courses, and then our catalog was shared as a link, but that's option D. So we might want to talk about option A and B and how they can get access to option A or B.
Great point, because I forget we have people who are just now engaging with us and maybe haven't been with us all year. That's a really good point. Yes. Okay. This teacher services request form is strictly for option C, and it's how you can put in a request. You can understand, just like you plan your school year, Lincoln needs to actually plan for the demand. So this is not a contract in any way, but this lets us help gauge and plan for a workforce, so to speak. Like, how many teachers do we need to hire? What areas do we need them to be in? And this is what Lincoln does. This is their line of work. But right here, this goes in here. In order to properly plan, we need to know how many students you anticipate serving if you want the teacher services piece. You're going to complete this form after you download it, and you're going to return it to Joey. We have a dedicated staff member that does this so well, and Joey's going to be able to collect all of that and make that happen for you on the back end, where one of Lincoln's contracted licensed teachers is available to deliver the content for the students that you identify under option C.
Okay,
Okay,
Mel, I think you might need to give access to your form. Somebody said it says that it states that they need access.
gotcha. We will do that. Trent, can you do that in the background for me, maybe? Possibly, if you're on. Notice the second tab at the bottom. I will do that, guys. I just don't want to explore that with you right now, or we'll never get through this content today. This form is very simple. The second tab at the bottom is the Lincoln Empowered, what we refer to as the traditional courses. And if you look, they're alphabetized by name. They're organized by semester. So like if you wanted to have calculus delivered, maybe you lost your calculus teacher and you're having a hard time finding the calculus teacher and you want to be able to contract, you may only have 9 or 10 kids that are in that course, then you would want to complete this and give us numbers for both calculus semester 1 and calculus semester 2, if that makes sense. And this is simply a sheet that you will complete with numbers. We just want number of students and who's the person doing it. We'd like for this to be coordinated, at least at the school level. And then
But they only fill this out if they need teacher services, correct?
Exactly right. We've also verified with Lincoln that, and this may be a big one, y'all, as I was secondary, I was a high school assistant principal, and I'm thinking now that I think we might have a big need for this in maybe the algebra world. Jeana, you know, you were a math teacher as well, but students that possibly didn't finish their learning last year in algebra that need opportunities to do, they've done the seat time, so to speak. We've met that requirement, but they need to go back and have an opportunity to have a passing score in that coursework so they achieve the credit. There's actually a section at the bottom just for credit recovery courses that would include teachers as well. Okay. So I just wanted to explore that with you. I'll get the share part corrected so that you can download the form, because it's not going to let you into a Google file, because you can see it was going to be a nightmare trying to capture all of the different courses on that. Now, I'm going to go back to the training and address the question Jeana brought up. That is option C, and that's where the form is. I'll get my link fixed for you where you can download it. Option A and B, we've done all year long as far as functionality. The only part about B that's new is the auto-graded piece. And so that's going to be made available to everyone starting, we hope this summer. The auto-graded piece will be available in our main domain. So it looks to me like we're going to possibly, Jeana, need to put out a new participation form like we did last year, the exact same form, where we allowed somebody at the district level to make that commitment for you. And here's why I tell you. That person is going to have interactions with usernames and passwords in the system. They're going to be having interaction with us being able to share employer student level data. Option A and B, when I talk about the rostering services, you don't have to use them. We're trying to figure out the best way to make that customizable for you. But we have to know that somebody in charge at your district has granted permission for us to be engaging with you, sending information with you, sharing the curriculum with you, sharing a shared folder that Kindle is so good to make that has all of your teachers and students' usernames and passwords created. And guess what he does? He does that through a data agreement with your district. And then after that's established, when you go home at night, he actually schedules that to be pulled right out of eSchool using a Cognos file. And we've done that for 184 districts all year long. So it's proved to be a really beneficial piece. Sometimes it can be too much of a solution, and we've learned how to actually take some requests and prevent some roster enrollments from happening. One of the neat pieces about it is as a child's schedule is input and created in eSchool, the crosswalk courses that Lincoln has based upon the course codes that you use in eSchool, they get matched up and it automatically builds the course, puts all the students that you have scheduled into that course from eSchool. It uses that as the source of data to be able to marry those all together in the learning management system. And it looks at your teacher of record, and that's who it assigns to the course and gives access to it. So one of the beautiful things about that is it just happens as you get your kids scheduled, but it also takes care of students that move, they transfer from one district to the next. We have learned, Jeana and I, so much about how to help you that I think we're going to be able to do some trainings about, hey, we wish we'd have known this a month before we started all this last year. Some little tidbits that we've learned about learning management systems that transfer across many of them, if not all of them. And we're going to be able to do some of those personalized trainings with you when it's a relevant time to do that. But we will be putting out the participation form, and I will push that out to district superintendents and curriculum people and make you aware that that's gone out. We'll just share the link with you, but please understand it has to be completed by someone at the district level. Jeana, what did I not cover on those two pieces?
I think you got it. Now, we have had a question about AP courses and if those are available.
So AP courses in A and B there's not a list of courses that have AP content developed in them by Lincoln. But what we did in the option A and B is we crosswalked, like if you have an AP physics class, the schools asked me to go ahead and crosswalk that with the typical physics course. And then they went in and customized it so they can make it the rigor and stamina it needs to be for College Board. So there was a way to start with something other than a blank course, even though that's always an option too for you. So now, as far as AP goes, as option C, I believe I saw AP courses in there, Jeana, didn't you? Let me look. That's a really good question. You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of the next option we're fixing to talk about. So it's not Lincoln that has the AP courses. It's option D that we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Another question that we got is, what's the difference in a credit recovery Algebra 1 course and a regular Algebra 1 course?
So y'all are going to get me in trouble because it's been a while since I was over all these pieces for a high school. But typically, if a child has completed the seat time, meaning they've done the minutes and time required to earn a unit of credit, and they have failed at that, then they've already committed the time. They just need an opportunity to go back and re-engage with the curriculum, like a second chance learning option, and recover the credit and earn something that allows them to receive a credit higher than a letter grade of F. So it provides them the content with a teacher if they've already had a chance at doing the course and failed.
Here's a question about option C. If a school is on block scheduling and they are on a semester schedule, can they combine semesters 1 and 2 within that semester?
Yes, we made that work this year. Jeana, I think that was, wasn't it Bologna we did some stuff with on that?
Yeah.
So there's defaults, guys. It's a system. So a learning management system is just that. So they build it with defaults, and then we have learned how to do all kinds of customizations. But you have to approach it from what's the default and what do I want it to be different than that. So you have to kind of know what those defaults are to know whether or not what your next steps are to make that happen. But there is a way to take the defaults of 4 quarters in a year and combine that for those courses so that there's just 2 giant periods in a year.
So I think this question was about the teacher service.
Oh, that's a great one.
Right. I think she's talking about the teacher. Can they take that teacher service and combine semester 1 and 2 in one semester instead of a year?
Oh, that's a great question. So like if I'm a student wanting to take algebra, because that would be great, that catches them up quicker. And I wanted to register for semester 1. And if I'm able to get that done and move on to semester 2 work, can I do that? That's a Joey question. I want to say yes, but I need Joey to say that instead of me because she's actually the one that sets that up. So that her contact is on that downloadable form. Okay.
Yeah. And Debbie, that's Debbie. So
question.
Yep.
That's a great question. Okay.
Here's another one on option C real quick. They want to know, will the teachers meet the requirements for standards? If so, will the school be able to receive their credentials?
Yes. I mean, are you talking about through option C if they?
Yes, through
Yes.
option C with teacher services.
Good question, though. I forget that I operate with a different level of knowledge sometimes. So the Department of Ed approves digital providers. We are approved as a digital provider. Lincoln is one of our providers. So all of our teachers that we bring to you through Lincoln Learning, they're licensed teachers and they've gone through a background check in Arkansas. They have had to complete that. They're certified in some state. They meet the blended learning requirement. They are teaching the content, and we have correlation standards that we'll show you later in the summer. Those of you that haven't seen them, they're on our website, that shows how their courses and content align to our standards. But just like a digital book, you'll use that to plan with if you're delivering it under option A and B. Under option C, though, you have licensed teachers. That should not be an issue at all for you having accreditation concerns, because we have been approved for them to be a blended provider. The grant that funds us the ability to offer you this LMS and this comes from the Department of Ed, and they're the people who approve you. So I can't see that being an option, but that's a great question.
Okay, I think you can go on to option D and we'll pick up from there.
I didn't know we'd have that much talk about this one slide again, but I thought I would put it back out there because I linked the form of which you can't pull yet. Jeana, you try that while I'm talking about option D if you don't care.
Nope.
So option D is a full teacher-led solution, okay? It is different than C in that it really branches out to a giant library that I'm going to show you very quick. I've linked to the e-resources library, but the great question that somebody asked a while ago about, I'm going to do this on the fly with you, asked me about AP, is there a way to get content with a teacher for AP? There is. So when I drop down under subject, AP is alphabetically at the top. These are all the different digital providers that we have approved to contract with for y'all. These are not free courses. As you notice, the costs are over here to the right. This is a per student per semester cost, my understanding. And there's an additional administrative fee on top of that for us to offer this. But if you have a student that needs AP content, we have a lot of things for you to explore here through different.
You might show down at the bottom that there are 68 entries, even though it's only showing 10.
Yeah, it shows 10 on a page, but there are 68 total entries. So like if I go to the second page, it takes me through AP Computer Science. And then I go to the third page, there's my AP English, okay? And the provider's name is in the middle. This works like any kind of system that you want to search on. So if you know that you want to search on a particular subject, like I did AP, you can do that. If you want to look at a specific provider, like you prefer someone there, you can look at that. Okay, lots of options there for you on that. Great question about the AP. But that catalog is out there and available. And again, Joey's the same person you'll work with. And we do have more than one person, but Joey kind of coordinates that work. Brenda helps a great deal with that as well. And you can imagine this past year, we got real fluid in making that happen for students and families. Okay, let's move on to some new content then. We've kind of recapped that. Let's talk about something that we just kind of teased a little bit 2 weeks ago. Digital gap curriculum. What in the world is that? What does that mean to you? Why do you care? Well, there is a chance that you can have students behind as they come forward next year. And I'm not sure what your plan is. I'm not assuming that you've made a plan or you don't have a plan. I'm just trying to tell you that our job is to try to come up with resources and solutions and let you know about them. And then if it fits your plan, then I just want to make you aware that they're out there. So what we've done is we have partnered with Arkansas educators and Lincoln Learning, and we have created a curriculum to address essential learning standards in Arkansas. Okay. So it is a digital curriculum, and it is aligned with, you find it in our correlation documents with both Arkansas standards and the national standards. So what does that mean? Let's talk about I love it when things get out of order here on me. Okay. So the design and structure that we focused on was kind of based on some of the biggest needs, and also the ability to deliver you finished products and scope of work here. Is the design and structure is around kindergarten through 8th grade. So that's the focus of it. And it places an emphasis on math and English language arts standards, okay? That doesn't mean I don't value other core subjects. That just means that was the priority in turning out the work. If we find that this is valuable to you guys, we will continue to develop that out for the other core areas. Again, it's based on Arkansas Essential Learning Standards. I linked the DESI playbook here because this has been out. This is kind of what got us to thinking about what could we do to help schools have options to be able to address possible unfinished learning or learning loss as they capture and measure that. And so we've come up with basically a digital compressed course format using that. Jeana, is there anything you want to say before I launch into the playbook?
No, I think you've covered it.
I'm not going to go through this playbook with you, but I'm going to let you know it is out on our Department of Education site. It's wonderful. It is a partnership that they've done with educators in our state to help parents, teachers, school leaders, everyone identify essential learning targets or skills that students really shouldn't leave a grade knowing before they are successful in the next grade. Okay. The curriculum, the standards that we have in our state are all important, but there are some non-negotiable standards that make it very difficult for a child to succeed if they are promoted to the next grade. And this is a really great way to look at that. I'm not going to give you a field trip on it. You can explore it.
Ms. Aguilera just asked if there's a playbook for high school.
They have not developed one to my knowledge. That doesn't mean that they won't, but it's so difficult to develop that at that level. I'm not saying they're not working on it, but this one's arranged in grade bands. And I put the link in there. I'm not gonna be the DESI person today, but I'm letting you know, we look at everything that's created and we try to parallel our work around what you're being given as other resources in the state. Wouldn't you agree, Jeana?
Absolutely.
Okay, so with that, what does this look like on my next slide? I talked to you about that, the purpose and intent for this. Well, this slide back here was really about the design and structure, and then we talk about the purpose and intent. And again, that is to have a condensed curriculum that helps you be nimble and flexible in addressing unfinished student learning that's based on the essential learning standards for our state. So how might you use this? Well, I even have a note here about block schools and block curriculum. Summer programming may be how you want to use it. You may have a plan already for how you're going to stand up an on-site summer program, and I think that's awesome. If you don't have a plan or you don't have a workforce to do that, then you might be able to engage with our summer program that I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. But anyway, this is going to be made available for you so you can use this content that's pared down and condensed and compressed as a gap curriculum. And I had to come up with some kind of name. And so what makes English 4 different than gap English 4? It's going to be the amount in the course and the content. Would you like to touch on that, Jeana? Did I mess that up? I'm trying to keep it simple.
No, you're doing great. I think that last bullet down there is pretty powerful too for the start of the school year next year.
How would you identify it in the learning management system as being different than any other grade level math or ELA course? Is we're going to actually have them created. We're working with them and they're already working on it with the name GAP is actually in the course name. So if you ever see that, we want you to know that it's intentional and it's out there to be able to provide you a more condensed piece to work with, maybe across the summer. I put the block curriculum. Here's what I was thinking when I put block curriculum. It could allow schools to plan for embedded options during the school day, maybe as an extended block of instructional time. Some schools have sometimes called that a learning lab, or they pair it as a blockette in their scheduling for a large group common intervention. You may actually have a large group of your kids with a need this year. Or it could be structured as a personalized programming for individual students during school day intervention. Or here's another option. You could plan it as a facilitated after-school intervention solution using flexible digital resources. So that was where my thinking was of how this might be used differently. So it serves a lot of different ways that you can own this process yourself, but it does create something that is portable and it can go with you, and it's not going to go away. We can use it next summer if we need to. We can use it this school year. Heck, I could have used it if I had students move in that were really far behind in the grade level they thought they were in from another country when I was in another district. That would have been very helpful. So anything you want to say about the blended resource for intervention, Jeana?
No, you got it.
So the timeline and availability, you want to know this. We're making it available. Our promise is June 1. If we can do it before then, we will. We will. We want you to know that. But we're working in partnership bigger than Jeana and I with the programmers that actually create and build these courses based upon our guidance and direction that we're telling them. So that gives them ample timeline to have it ready. If we can beat that deadline for you, we will. But that lets you at least have this information about the gap curriculum in math and English, math and literacy, we'll call it, to plan with for summer. It will be ready and designed and available in the summer. So one of the things that I'm going to do immediately, in addition to find out who's interested in fall participation that maybe wasn't one of our 184 districts in the past, who's a new district, I'm going to want to know for summer school who needs access to these courses, who wants access to them, so that I can make sure and make them a priority in the system, especially if we haven't gained access to your district before to build user accounts. That's a big deal. I know Trent's probably hearing me say that, but that would be a really big deal. If you're deciding to onboard with us and this is the first time for you to do that, there is a little bit of a turnaround time in getting those data sharing agreements in place and being able to get you in as users in the system so you can access the GAP curriculum. There is no cost for that. The resources that help fund that, Jeana and I have just taken and put time into this and working with some really good other educators in our state to try to get this ready for you. So there is no additional cost for you to access that resource. The only thing I want to tell you, the user, like your district level user, if you've never been in the system, will need to create one. And then it's kind of like a pyramid. They would actually build out manual enrollments if you've never been in the system before for the teacher and the students to gain access to the course. We realize it'll look a lot different in the summer, so we're not going to try to pull data out of an eSchool schedule for a summer program. So it would be a manual enrollment piece. Any questions about that? Oh,
I don't have any.
We got something popped up.
Oh, somebody just said, if we already use Lincoln, will we need to re-enroll?
You know, that's a good question. Like, you're not going to have to do as much, but what I would like to know is if you have another plan for one of your LEAs on your campus and you no longer need us to pull the student enrollment data, then Kendall and I don't need to be doing that. So we probably need to refresh what we're agreeing on. Remember back when we did all this, we didn't know what we were agreeing on. We just knew that you needed your kids in there. So you may or may not have used 100% of what we rostered for you. So I think we would like to be able to capture a little more relevant picture. And I know the state would appreciate that as well, to know how many people actually are engaging in option A or B and, you know, and we'll control it then at a school level with the flexibility and option if you want to prevent some things from coming in. So I'll get those forms out. We're a little ahead of the schedule on that right now. I'm trying to be very honorable and not disrupt leadership with testing in our state. And so I have been really careful not to send out things that have really timely pieces on them. I'm just trying to deliver it, but we will need to get that form out and have you re-engage and refresh commitment. I understand you may have new leaders, so you may have a different leader that wants to engage that didn't before, or vice versa. So I think that we need to just do a refresh there and grab any new people that are interested as well. And Trent and Christina were wonderful in helping with that. Okay, so now we're going to go into something brand new, a summer virtual academy. And again, this is just an option. This is a resource that we're going to stand up for you at APSRC that you do not have to use, but we hope that you will consider it if you don't have any other option available. Is what I'm getting at. I mean, sometimes we just don't have the workforce and the commitment to be able to stand up an on-site summer program, and I get that. Sometimes the logistics are just too much to try to manage. So one of the things that we have all learned this school year is how sometimes digital can actually benefit us and how we plan and think through that. So I had to come up with some kind of a brand name, Jeana, so that when I talk about it, we're not calling it Lincoln. I mean, we've got too many, we don't need another option. So what is this? This is really not about a vendor. This is about a model that could accomplish so much in our state. It can accomplish a lot at an individual school level, but it can scale and accomplish a lot for our state. So I called it Pathways because it's so many different ways you can go with this. The model for us in the summer is going to be pretty concrete, pretty black and white, because we're trying to gain evidence that it's effective using data. So we're really wanting to prove that, but it's about students, but it's not only about students. It's about recognizing the need to partner with our schools and grow the capacity of the adult workforce there as well. So it's not just a student summer school. You might think of it as a summer school with an option to develop leadership at the teacher level, the building level, or district level if they want to engage in it. We don't have a set of rule on that. It's whoever the district wants to recommend, but we're calling it Pathways, and it's basically programming model for advancing student learning. If I'm a student and I'm going into this model, I don't want to see anything negative. I don't want to see the word digital, and I probably don't want to see the word virtual maybe right now. So we're calling it it's the Pathways program, and it's advancing student learning. And so I'm trying to think of it from the lens of a student. What could that mean? Could it have a positive outcome for me to think of it that way? So the design and structure of the summer virtual academy that we're doing using this Pathways model that I'm going to describe to you, this is how we're making it fit the need of our state this summer. It's going to be a student-focused model. We call it Pathways, like I just said. Virtual design and delivery, hybrid design and delivery, open to identified students in grades K through 8, and it's going to have a strong focus on student and staff outcomes. So when we started designing this, we basically start with the end in mind. What are we wanting to accomplish with this model? We're definitely want to work with children that have a need, that are identified, that are willing to make a commitment, that have the support of the district and the school. But most importantly, we want the same thing there. We want the school to offer up some great teacher level capacity that we can then build on for that school district or that school setting. Jeana, do you want to talk a little bit about that at all? Why that's equally important in our mind and our vision for this?
I'm sorry, Mel, I was responding to a question I got on here.
I'm talking about our summer academy, and I'm talking about how our design, when we say virtual design and delivery, hybrid design and delivery, that we value the human adult piece as much as we do in developing the students, because we
Absolutely.
recognize one will not happen without the other.
Mhm.
Guys, you cannot take a classroom of kids and hand them books and shut the door and hope they learn. And whether it's done in a face-to-face delivery model or whether it's done in a virtual, it can be good or bad. So what we're hoping to accomplish is we want to be able to show that you can develop the teacher adult, the leader adult, and you can help grow their skills so that digital delivery in a hybrid fashion can make a huge difference, especially when you're going to have so many needs when the students return in the fall. Okay. Our purpose and intent: address student learning loss. Another giant purpose, like I just said, is to leverage educational partnerships. That's in our schools. That's in our Arkansas school settings. It's going to use the extended school year concept that's grounded in research. I don't know how many of you have been keeping up with lots of different articles, but this isn't just an Arkansas concern. The ability to possibly re-engage in a meaningful learning environment at some point in time during our summer to maybe catch up and bridge some gaps for some kids that had the greatest loss is huge. And so we're just trying to meet that demand with an option. This academy will bridge learning over the summer so students don't arrive with as many deficits as they might. It'll utilize the GAP curriculum that we talked about earlier. And most importantly, it creates a replicable model for scalability. So I want to talk to you about that. We're going to utilize the available digital resources that we have been given through grants in the first year, as well as going forward into our second year, which is K-12 content, as well as the learning management system. We are also going to focus in this academy on essential learning standards. We're going to target skill development for math and literacy. And we're going to make sure that we see timely interventions in place for grade level readiness. That's what we're trying to focus on. So recognizing that that can't happen without great teachers, great leaders, facilitators, coaches that you already have, it partners with them as well as the students to grow local capacity through a local coaching model. Okay. So when they're done with the summer academy, they can go back and use that model again in their school setting with other kids and help develop even more capacity in their school systems. Jeana, do you want to share anything? I don't mean to just rattle. I think you're on mute.
I am. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, I mean, you're doing great. I think that got it.
I hear crickets. So outcomes, you got to have outcomes. So our Pathways Academy outcomes that I've listed here are growing students with identified learning gaps. Okay. So these are students that you will be able to produce measures from this late spring, April and May, using your local diagnostic testing pieces that the state affords you to be able to determine that they're not leaving the grade on time as a grade level student. That it's a pretty broad definition, but you would have different metrics depending on which diagnostic piece you use, but you know whether or not that student is on grade level at the end of your school year. Another outcome is what I said earlier, is to grow local capacity through a coaching model. It's a replicable model for scalability during the full school year. It's going to develop teaching and coaching skills in a digital environment. It will include data-driven strategies to personalize learning, and it will include strategies that support science of reading. So they're going to get a whole lot in a short amount of time to go back and share and support students that they'll see in the fall, or if they're in a role where they impact other teachers, maybe they'll be able to scale that across a grade level of teachers. Lots of options there in growing that capacity. So the timelines and commitments for the Pathways Academy that we're doing this summer is July 5th through August 6th. And I didn't put that in there, but that is 5 consecutive weeks. Okay. It's a 5-week program. Students will be identified using spring diagnostic data. That's the most recent data that they will have. Adult learning coaches will have to be recommended by the district. So if you have an interest, it still has to come through a recommendation of a district, because this is a partnership that we will have with the district to serve their students in a summer school program and grow their teaching and learning capacity among their teachers and coaches. Again, I said it doesn't have to just be a classroom teacher. We welcome instructional facilitators, academic coaches. We welcome building leaders if there's an interest there. The only other piece that I really want to emphasize today is that we're going to have we'll have signed agreements and expectations in place. So the school knows what's expected, the student knows what's expected, the adult learner that comes to work with us knows what's expected, as well as parents. We'll have a parent agreement in there as well. For this.
Now we do have a question. I think that's good for us to clarify on our curriculum. Somebody asked, if we have a facilitator, could they also provide content for math so students, it's an ELA facilitator, could they also provide content for math so students who don't meet standards for both can move on to the next grade level? So we might talk about the math and ELA content per student.
You go ahead. I don't think I understand the question fully.
So the students that are identified, they would be put in our summer academy for both math and ELA, correct?
Yeah, we see that going hand in hand. That's a really good clarifying question.
Yes.
So
now this,
one or the other, you would be in the program. Yeah.
Yeah. So every student would be in both math and ELA. Now this person might be asking about, if they have a facilitator, certified ELA, could they also provide content for math so students who did not meet standards for both can move on to the next grade level? So a little bit different question, but it made me think about that.
That's going to be a local decision by your district. I don't have an issue with that. I want great talent that we can help shape and mold to lead this model back at your district. So if your district is comfortable in recommending a building level leader, like an instructional facilitator, who maybe they're math instructional facilitator, but they want them to get in there and help learn engaging strategies, some science of reading strategies, all of the different pieces that we're going to show you through our training, then that would be fine with me. We don't have a requirement and reporting piece to anyone bigger than us on this. But I think Jeana and I would be very open to that. Don't you, Jeana, as far as cross content, especially at elementary level? Yep. Great question.
Yep.
So this is as far as I'm going to get today, because we're really going deep, and I've given you so much about this summer Pathways Academy. But I want you to know that we're going to have the next meeting to just focus on some of the details of it. And it's really not fair to make all of you sit through that if that's not your interest. But I want to let you know we have formulated the expenses, compensation, and incentives piece. There is a per student tuition cost for this. I'm not charging for the free content or the LMS. The tuition cost is to cover compensation for local digital learning coaches. Okay. We're going to pay people to come work and do this program with us. And we want Arkansas people to do it, that'll go back and make a difference immediately in their school systems and grow that capacity beyond themselves with other teachers, other leaders in their school, and have a broader impact in reaching students. Okay. So the compensation is to pay for the hard work that we're going to ask them to do over 5 weeks. They're going to have professional training. There's going to be 2 separate on-site sessions. One will be before the academy actually starts, and the other one will be the first Monday after the academy launches in July. And that is so that we can provide the necessary training, real-time training that's embedded in the programming that we're expecting them to do. Jeana and I want to make sure that they're successful. So in order to do so, we have got to make sure that we give them all the support and training that they need around student engagement, around reading fluency, how to use some tools that we're going to provide them around reading fluency tools to actually, I call it, move the needle very quickly in 5 weeks with students. So that they're going to get a lot of access to a lot of great training that's very specific for developing at-risk students and growing them forward. So it's going to be a very intense program, not just for students, but for teachers as well. And as a result, we have a plan to pay them. That's why we're charging a tuition cost, okay? And then if you'll notice at the end, I like to be motivated as well as anyone. I believe so much in what our vision is for this model, and the fact that I will have an agreement to have your data that qualifies the child for coming in, as well as your data in the fall when you test them in September when they return, then I'm gonna have enough data that I can use an external evaluator that I'm familiar with that can actually produce an outcome type measure. And if we meet the thresholds that we share with you in our next session, then there could be performance pay incentives set aside to reward these great academic coaches for the work that they do as evidenced in the outcome of their student. And so if there is anything good that can come out about doing more work in the summer, we plan to pay everyone a set amount of money for doing their work as long as they do it. And then if we have the outcomes that we hope and expect that we will, then we'll layer in the performance pay in September to be able to reward teachers for that great work.
Now, we do have a question. Somebody asked, if we don't do the Pathways Academy, will we be able to utilize the GAP curriculum June 1? Our summer school term is June to July, and again, July to August.
Yes, you can. Mm-hmm. We talked about that, but that's still a good question. I know I'm giving you so much. I was going to give y'all more, and I decided it was too much. So what we're doing is we've chunked out, we've kind of done a little review. This was kind of like when I taught classes. I went back to the previous lesson. We went back to what we covered a little bit 2 weeks ago. We brought in some new information about the GAP curriculum, and now we're building forward about some options that are going to be available very soon for you to start considering in your district that you may want to do. Here's the thing. This is scalable. We can do this academy as long as we have the great human capital to work with, we can scale it. But we have to have the adult human capital to be able to plan for how large our academy is. Okay.
We just got another great question on the academy. Is this tuition expected to be paid by the parent or by the district?
By the district, because it's compensating district employees. Good question, though. Good clarifying question.
That's right.
That's a good way to look at it too, but we won't even go there. But thank you. Anything else? Any other questions on that? So next steps for Pathways Academy, specifically this last piece, this third leg, Wednesday, May 5th, 9 to 10. That's next week. Deeper engagement in details. You will, if you're in that particular Zoom, you will have access to a shared folder of information that has all of these stakeholder expectation agreements in it. The criteria that has to be in place for you to identify students. I can't just take it because you want them in there. I have to have some data. Y'all understand, I have to have 2 data points. So one going in and one coming out. The one I have to be sure I have is the going in one. I know they may move out before we return in the fall, but that's the agreements. So everybody understands what the commitment is that they're making. An online form then that you would actually complete, and it would all like a Google form, and it would create who do you want in this academy based upon the committed agreements that you have in place, form to recommend staff, and then a schedule of the compensation, benefits, and incentives, and the criteria. I didn't put that in there, but the criteria for how incentive performance pay will be determined. So everybody knows the rules of the ballgame up front.
We've had several questions about the recording, so I just want to kind of reiterate that the recording will be on our website. It'll be under the Arkansas Ready for Digital Learning tab, and Trent has shared the link a couple times in the chat to the presentation.
And here's, Christina did something so amazing last time. When Trent gets the recording done, I guess it was a YouTube recording. When he gets it done, no, it's an MP4. He'll share it with Christina. And if you received an invitation for today's webinar from her through Constant Contact, telling you about this event and the reminders, she will also directly push that link out in an email to you as well. So you don't have to remember to go to our website and look for it. So she'll push it out directly in a link as well.
We also just got a question about the Summer Academy on, is it a daily program for the summer?
So those are great questions, and I want to be able to share that in a written format for you, because you know when things aren't in writing, they get a little shaped sometimes. It's 5 weeks of instruction for the child. It's hybrid in that there will be opportunities that we expect coaches on a reoccurring type routine to engage in synchronous moments with children. So I don't want to call it direct instruction the way we all think of synchronous learning, but it's not just going to be a sit and get and trying to coach the kid to get involved. There is going to be a set commitment on the child, the district, and the coach, that there are expectations at certain points in time each week that you will be delivering something to students around math and ELA strategies. Okay, so that is there. It's not every day, but every day you'll be tracking, maybe it's 2 days a week that you have a set aside time that you engage with a group A of students and a group B, one in math and one in literacy, and then you flip flop it the other day. I can see that being the schedule that I've been working on. And then 3 days a week, you silently are doing coaching with students, individual tutoring with them, and providing support and making sure that there is engagement going on. You're also going to learn the week, it's actually a week and a half. It's not the week of the 4th, but prior to that, you'll be coming in to get some really great training on using some data analysis tools that allows you to actually assess your child from home. They don't have to come into school on their reading piece, their foundational skill needs, and you'll be taught how to track that, and you'll have basically an odometer in front of you the whole time and knowing what you're going to do to help push forward literacy with this child. I strongly believe that one strengthens the other, regardless that they're two subjects, y'all. So that is going to be a mechanism that you have throughout the 5 weeks that you use. And it is another mechanism to chart growth, specifically in literacy.
We got another question on paying the salary. So it says, who pays the salary for this person?
The district will pay tuition costs to us based on the students, and we get all the commitment. We will then make sure that the teachers get paid probably once during the 5 weeks, I'll be honest, and then incentive pay in September once we have the second data point on the diagnostic piece. Depending on whether there's growth or not, there would be incentive pay. I personally want that to work through the district, and I'll explain how that will happen next week a little bit more.
And another one on, did you already discuss the partnership that APSRC is making with the literacy program from the approved DESE list?
I'm not sure what she's asking. Are you, Jeana?
Maybe that the review for Lincoln. Maybe.
Take them off mic. We'll see.
It's Anna. Let me find her. Anna.
Okay, Anna. Oh, from academics?
Uh-huh.
That's a great question. Well, I can tell y'all that anyway.
Okay.
So Lincoln Learning has been an approved blended learning provider for a while, digital learning provider. To help y'all see the difference, you can use providers for blended, meaning they supplement the work you're doing, as we just went through this year in a pandemic. There is a separate review process for districts around core curricular needs and supplemental needs for science of reading. And so there's a process to have curriculum reviewed specifically for that. So Lincoln Learning is an approved digital provider by the department. If we want Lincoln Learning to also be considered for science of reading alignment, they had to have a submission for that and be reviewed specifically for that. And so I think what Anna's asking is, I had several districts want that this year, and they have submitted referrals, and the department has assured me that they are part of the cycle review process. That I don't know if they've started it. I know the referrals all had to be in by April 12th, but Lincoln has been submitted to be reviewed for. It depends on what they end up working out with the department, which pieces, but they could be a supplement to your core science of reading program. So y'all don't get me to looking crazy here because I'm a secondary girl, but the 5 big components of science of reading, if your core program is missing one or you don't have it fully developed, it allows you to go and look at the approved provider list and choose a provider then to help supplement your core reading program. Did I say that pretty clear? They're in the process to be and being reviewed right now to see if they can be one of those science of reading core or supplement to the core providers. And we all know that as soon as you do, probably, because I'm not part of that process. The department works directly with the vendor to get the curriculum pieces they need to determine that. So hope that helps.
Yep, she said thank you. So I think you got it.
Okay. So thank you so much for a really long presentation. It's right at an hour. I put my email on here. Jeana's is J Williams, and you can call us, you can email us, but we're going to push out to you our next Zoom. Everyone that got the invite today will get it. You can forward that invitation to anybody in your district that you need, that you would like to include in it. We try to give it to the superintendent, curriculum, building level administrator. I don't know who all we do, but we also, because we have a lot of teachers in our system, we also email you guys directly that information too. So remember, this is going to require a district level commitment for the summer program. So it might be beneficial if you have an interest to be engaging your leadership if they possibly weren't engaged in it at this time. And maybe they can join us next week for a little bit more information. Okay, no more questions. We had a really good audience, lots of great questions.
Yeah.
In case we don't tell y'all, we appreciate you and everything you do every day. I can't imagine what your year's been like, but we want you to know we're doing what we can to try to provide you some help. If it's anything that you can use to help meet the needs that you have, we're there. We want to be there for you. So we appreciate you.